Hello there. This is a sponsored look at the CZUR ET24Pro book scanner. And we'll be getting this thing out in a moment to take a look at it. But if that sounds familiar, that may be because I recently reviewed this, which is the CZUR ET18 Pro book scanner. Now, this I've actually still been using since it was sent to me because it's pretty good at what it does. So I'm actually quite looking forward to this because the ET24 model here is a 33% higher resolution sensor and has some other features that I'm actually quite excited about giving a try. So today we're going to be taking this thing out of the box and seeing how well it works. Okay, I don't want to waste any time here, so we're just going to get right into opening this thing up to check it out. Okay, so since I have opened the ET18 Pro before, I have an idea of what's going to be in here, but the 24 is a much better version that I'm really looking forward to. So this is the mat that you do your scanning on to give it a black background. And then we have some more goodies here, but we can actually get to the scanner itself here. And that is it. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is on the back there. Oh yeah. I will show you that in a moment though. A couple other things, USB type B cable, the finger cots, which are definitely one of this thing's magic best features, the foot pedal, and that one is slightly different than last time. Power supply with different country plug adapters. I'm going to go ahead and put the one for the US on there. Button for taking pictures by finger. Oh, I don't think I noticed that last time. It's got a nice rubber pad on it so it doesn't slide. And then one of the other really cool features of this thing, the rear mounted lights that just magnetically attach on the back. Boom, that allow you to side light your subject for glossy things. But we'll get into all of that in a moment. I'm going through this a little quicker this time for this stage because we took a look at all of that in the ET18 video, and a lot of the accessories and things are the same here. The real changes are in the scanner hardware itself and some of what's going on down there. So let's actually take a look at that now. So on the back of both of these scanners, we have a power switch, the power connector, a USB port for connecting it to the computer, a button connector that is for the foot pedal or the finger switch, a reset button, but then new to the ET24 Pro is an HDMI output that the ET18 Pro does not have. So if you wanted to give a live video feed of what this is seeing, you can do this much easier now with that. And we will definitely be checking that out because that is something I'm quite excited about because I've actually been streaming with this. And there's another thing that I'm hoping is going to make this work easier for streaming. There is an early development Linux driver available for this. So we will be testing that, but we're probably going to be using the Windows driver for the majority of today because the Linux driver is still in the early stages. First, let's go over the basic setup. So the first thing you're going to want to do is put your mat down, and it aligns with the front of the unit. It uses this as the backdrop to determine where your page edges are because it automatically crops down. Then you'll want to plug in your power supply, then the USB type B cable, which I really like for fixed devices like this that don't need high throughput. USB type B is a very strong connector. And then I'm going to connect the foot pedal, which I end up really liking, but something I think we're going to try today that I haven't actually tried yet is it has an auto detect page flip mode. So when you go from one page to the next, it's supposed to be able to automatically detect that. And I'm curious to try that out. So we'll give that a look today. But since last time I did this here, I've actually set up a proper archiving station. So I'm going to go ahead and move all of this setup to over there so we can give this a shot. This area has been my one-stop shop for archiving for a little while now. We have floppy drives right here, a camera pointed down with a television with no LCD to form a light box for photographing things, a auto dock feed scanner here, which is where this really picks up the slack, and we'll go over that, but this is the ET18 in its place that it's been for a while, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up, and we're gonna put the 24 there. All right, and there it is in the setup. You can see there are lights built into the top side of the unit, and that is how it can get a really nice even lighting. So what I would actually do when using this normally is turn off the other lights that I have around this, because it makes a big difference. And the other option you have here is to turn on the rear lighting as well, which helps with the glossy stuff. But we'll get into that when we actually start demoing it. I'm going to go ahead and spend some time using this one now to get familiar with the differences of it, and then I will check back in a bit. Okay, I have done a bunch of testing now with the CZUR ET24 Pro on both Linux and Windows, and spoiler alert, I am going to be using this thing on Linux from now on, and I'm really happy about that. But I want to go through some things that I learned about it on using both and talk about it, because also it's just a straight up upgrade over the ET18 Pro in more ways than I really anticipated. Partially just because I forgot how getting over that 300 DPI mark, because this is a 320 DPI scanner, really makes a big difference. So I'm really happy about that. Something I want to put in right here though, before we get to looking at the results, is something I keep forgetting to mention. It's really the whole point of this scanner. So here is a Radio Shack manual that talks about the expansion interface for that. Now, this is a 2-page manual. It means the pages are twice as long as a regular sheet of A4 paper, even though when you're looking at it, it's about that size. Now, the thing is that the easier way to scan something like this is to put it into an auto document feeder. This is an Epson one here. But the thing is that in order to do that, you have to do this. This is a manual for the TR-SADI RS-232C adapter, and somebody, not me, cut the spine. Now, this should have been bound like that manual for the expansion interface, but somebody went ahead and cut it up, which sucks. Now that this is like this. So the main benefit of the CZUR scanners, like this one, are that you can just put the document in here and then flip the pages through and have it scan it all open, and it will do distortion correction for the curves of the page. You don't have to cut the spine. So that's why these are so awesome. So keep that in mind when you're working on it, that everything is in service to preserving documents so you don't have to do this with it. Okay, now to go over the bigger tests that I did and talk about some things. I'm gonna do some examples here as well. So first off, I did a test on the Linux software, which I really like here. So it is using the GTK interface for everything, which great. So it's really easy to work with. It saves the files directly to a folder that you choose, and everything is configurable through a single menu right here that allows you to adjust pretty much everything you could ever want. So I really enjoy working with this software. You can also quickly switch between the page modes here. It is really good, and if I put something in there, you'll see it snaps right to the book. It's great. Now on this book here, so this is the Haynes manual for my van, and I actually bought this specifically so I could digitize it because I was working on the cooling system to get it to pass emissions recently, which was fun, but I needed to know some torque specs for some things, and trying to find those online was miserable. So I bought this with the specific intention of digitizing it, then with the ET18 Pro, but now I just did it with the ET24 Pro so that I could Control F and find stuff like torque specs instantly in my own PDF. So I did this 330 page plus manual on the ET24 Pro, and it only took about 40 minutes. Once you get into a rhythm with this stuff, it goes by so fast. Just put on some music and go. This took me less time than listening to Galacticon. It was so quick and simple. And even with that, there were some times when I was working on scanning this where I was looking at the page as I was scanning it, and then I'd check back over at the software because Haynes printed the text like almost into the spine here. And I was thinking, it must need me to pull the page a little bit tighter to bring that out and make it a little more flat. But every time I would look over and it totally got it. You can absolutely read the text that is just disappearing into the spine. So I was really impressed by that. It works very well. And the resolution increase on that will definitely help because you have less horizontal resolution to work with. So it's doing some magic there. Now, I'm not going to focus too much more on the Linux software here because it is still in development and isn't at full feature parity with the Windows software. And mostly that comes down to the exporting formats from what I've seen. So we don't have the option to do PDFs with the text under the images. But aside from that, it really works well. So just keep that in mind if you're going to use it. But now we're going to switch over to Windows and take a look at that, which is probably what most people are going to use anyway. Now on Windows, I wanted to test the ET24 by scanning something that I had already scanned with the ET18. Now I didn't do this in the last video, I did this as something else that I was working on. This is the manual for Crush, Crumble, and Chomp, which is a kids game. But I wanted to compare what the differences between the scans on the 18 and the 24 megapixel sensors would look like. So let's start off with this page, which has a picture of a giant robot crushing like a truck down here. And I want to get a close look at this truck. This is the ET18 Pro. And if I go over to the ET24 Pro, wow, that's a lot sharper. We can see much greater small details, like there's a little dot right there that is visible, but is a lot softer on here. And this is what I was looking at to see, like, look at the line definition on the Q right there. I guess that's a Q. It's just much better. And then I scrolled down here to the text. And if we do that over here and then compare these, just wow. So the text on the 24 here is so much clearer, and it's not because that it's doing anything special to it. We can actually see on the bold text around the A and Z, it's about the same clarity. This has to deal with the resolution of the sensor. So when we have more pixels taking pictures, we can actually have less aliasing on the text. The pixels are capturing at the edges of the text, both white from the paper and black from the ink. When we have more pixels that are able to capture the black ink, we get this much better defined text. And that is where the 300 DPI improvement really comes into play here. So this is just an amazing example of how much better the 24 megapixel version looks. I'm really impressed with this. So I'm actually really happy with the results of this. I'm going to be uploading this, the 24 version, to archive.org, and I will leave the ET18 version up there as well if you want to compare the two. But I am extremely happy with how this looks. It came out really, really well. So yeah, and even you may have a curiosity about this. You can capture pages with black edges. So I will go over to the software here and show you how I did that. So if I go to the scanner, how I did that was by using the open facing pages mode, and then I intentionally allowed some excess white from the next pages in, and then I used the finger caught on one side to grab that, and then I positioned it roughly in the middle. That doesn't have to be perfect. And then you take your image, and then with the white along the edge poking through, it actually does a really good job of capturing that. There was no processing that happened there. I didn't make any adjustments. So if you give it a little bit of extra white there, you can then go back and crop out the edge and have just the page that you want. It works out really well. All right, now I actually want to leave the scanning interface because it's going to disable something that I want to test next, and that is the HDMI output, which is kind of interesting here. So I'm going to just plug in a capture card so that you can see it natively. And one of the things it does is on the top here, there's a little monitor, and it's going to turn that off, and it reroutes the video output to the HDMI port. And if I go over to OBS, I'm going to switch that to video capture. And here we can actually see a live video feed. And this is at 1080p, 60 frames per second from the CZUR scanner here. And this works out really well. So it is applying a little bit of contrast enhancement here to make the image clearer, because this method is meant for presentations. You don't really have time to set up and do a bunch of color stuff for every single page. It's trying to do a one-size-fits-all option, and overall it does a pretty good job. So one thing we could do, and this is actually something that I could see myself doing here, is with this issue of Byte magazine here. So one thing here is this is a glossy page, so I'm going to turn off the overhead light and turn on the side light. I do have other lights on in the room for filming this, so this is not fully representative of the quality. This does pretty well when you just do the rear firing lights. The manual for Crush, Crumble, Chomp there is actually a semi-gloss page, so if I turn this back on, you'll see that it will reflect the light on. So I shot that all with just the rear light. Turned out really well. Anyway, back to this. One of the things that I do when I'm streaming is a Byte break, point redemption, where people can pick a particular issue of Byte to come and look at. So I can actually do that with this. Just come in, flip in a couple of pages, look at, oh, nothing in particular. Let's just see, software teledelivery efforts falter. What's this about? Naboo's cable TV-based software downloading service continues to operate in Ottawa despite financial troubles. That's an interesting thing that sounds like people probably shouldn't buy. But that is really cool to be able to just flip through here and see anything. And yeah, it does a really good job at making any page on here visible. Like that is a sketched in. Oh my gosh. The Quiet Rider. Whoa, that is super cool. I haven't seen an ad for the Quiet Rider. Wow. Okay. But anyway, it works really well for this. That is some super duper tiny text there. Let's go ahead and see how well this does capturing that when we connect it to the computer. The lighting's not the best here. I will remind for that. I'm doing this somewhat impromptu. Yeah. So that is really, really tiny text. I am very impressed that it got that. You could absolutely read that. That is super impressive. That is the kind of tiny text, like, you gotta see this. This text is so small. There it is compared to a finger. Yeah, this is one of those times where you'd be breaking out your reading glasses to be able to see that. That is really cool. I'm very happy with that. Now, all these individual examples are fine and good, but I want to give you an example of what the entire workflow is like. So we're going to go ahead and scan something here, and I'm going to do it from start to finish in the Windows software. That way you can see how everything works as you go along. So we're going to get this open, and I'm actually going to scan this, which is the manual for Radio Shack casino computer games. I don't know if this has been scanned or not. Just looked appealing to me to scan for this. Let's go ahead and give this a go. I'm going to switch over to the software here, and we have a blank set, no pages loaded in, so we can start scanning. And for the cover here, we're going to be doing a flat single page, and we will definitely want color. The rest of the inside of the book is monochrome, so I'm actually going to set it to grayscale here. So we can get started. Now, we can see we have some reflections on the front, so we're going to go ahead and turn off the overhead lights and switch to the rear lights here, which will light that a little more evenly. I do have room lights on again so that you can see me while I'm filming, so this background would normally be totally black under these conditions, so just keep that in mind. All right, everything here is set up to take the picture, and I just want to point out there are several different ways you can do this. There is a button on the unit right there that you can press. I'm actually going to be using the foot pedal down here. I really like that solution, especially when you're working with the finger cots. There's also a button in the lower right that you can click, and something else I'm going to try here with this. I have not tested this yet. Auto scan, which has it automatically scan the document when it detects a page flip, which sounds really cool. So we're going to see how all that works out here. But everything looks good there, so I am actually just going to go ahead and click to save that one. And now I'm going to set up for facing pages and grayscale here. And yeah, I'm going to turn on auto scan and just see what happens here. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. Okay, that's pretty darn cool. That works really, really well. All right, and for the last page here, we'll switch to color single, and boom. There we go. The auto page flipping was awesome. That worked really well. Let's go ahead and see what our results look like with that. That was super quick and easy. That looks great. Yep. Yep. Yeah, it nailed it. Wow. Okay, that's cool. All right, now that we have all of our pages scanned in, we can go ahead and do some color corrections. For the cover, I'm going to do a single correction here rather than lump it into everything else. So I'm just going to see what a couple levels of contrast enhancement look like. I think 1 is good. So we'll go ahead and do that. I can see there's a little bit of black on the edge there, so we can actually individually crop here to get that down, and there we go. That's looking really good. Now, for everything else, after flipping through here, I really didn't see any significant issues with the edges. There's a little bit right there. We can just knock that out there. There's a feature where you can pick like only the left sides of the pages, and then you can crop these and have it fly through really quick if you need to adjust them, but it just absolutely nailed them there, so we don't need to do that this time. So I'm going to go ahead and select everything except for the covers here. And I'm now going to do quality, which will allow me to adjust the contrast. And I'm just going to bump that up by 2, which will make the whites whiter and the blacks blacker. All right. And yeah, that looks really good. Oh, that's really excellent. All right, now to wrap this up, we're going to export a searchable PDF. We're going to do it as English. I'm going to set the image processing mode to keep original. That will put the OCR to text under the image so that you can still see what the original text looked like. And then you can select over that and copy the text out. We'll see how that goes once it's done here. I'm going to set the quality to 100% because I'm OCD about that. We're going to call this TRS-80. Casino Games, and let it run there. And I got questions about this last time because I was kind of amazed at how fast this was. It's super fast, it's OCR. But one of the questions was, is it GPU accelerated? And the answer is, I'm pretty sure not. So I was running OBS then and now in the background to record the screen, and that is what's using the GPU. On Linux, I actually was able to do OCR as well, and I tracked the resources that the processors were using, and OCR did not touch GPU stuff. So yeah, it is CPU accelerated and really efficient with it. So yeah, it's very good. Now, speaking of how good it is, let's get some text here and see what that looks like. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm just going to run Notepad here. And boom, Casino Game Pack. That's an easy one. Let's see something more difficult here. Like this whole section right there. First off, look how nicely aligned that text is. That's amazing. Paste that in there. Wow. Down to nailing the quotes around the text. I'm pretty sure that's perfect. Yeah, wow. The resolution increase of the ET24Pro should also just make this more accurate, especially with smaller text. So the OCR will probably be improved with this one as well. Let's see, these are slightly more complicated with the formatting and characters on there, and it just completely nails it. Wow, I wasn't even expecting that. The difference between a period and a comma right there. Man, that's so good. Wow, okay. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and upload the scan of this to archive.org so you can check it out if you want to see what the results of this are like. Well, I think that wraps it up for the CZUR ET24 Pro. If you've been thinking about getting the 18 or the 24, I would definitely say that the 24 is worth it, having used both of them. Physically, they're both the same. They both do the same thing and work in the same way, but the resolution increase on the 24 does make a huge difference, and its color capabilities are definitely a lot better. So I would go with this one if both are an option for you. But yeah, that is it for now. If you want to learn more about this, I will have a link in the description. Thank you to CZUR for sponsoring this video, because I'm really happy to have been able to check this thing out. If you guys enjoyed this video, you may want to subscribe to the channel, but for now, that's it, and I will see you next time.